What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? After more than 100 episodes recorded with those very executives from companies like Disney, Amazon, Netflix, Cigna, and Google, the answer is clear. They learned lessons in leadership from the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. Some of our guests' athletic experience earned them a place in their sports Hall of Fame, like Chick-fil-A Chairman Dan Cathy. Some hung up their cleats after high school, like Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian, while others, like Condoleezza Rice, claimed they were terrible in their sport. But no matter their skill level, they have all told me that being a part of a team taught them lessons they still use as leaders today. In partnership with Maxwell Leadership, I'm your host, Don Yeager, here to give you an all-access pass to genuine, authentic, fireside chat-like conversations with today's business icons so that you can create powerful, positive change in your own organization. This is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is the CEO of P.F. Chang's, Damola Adamolekun. Damola leads 20,000 staff members in 300 locations around the world, all with the goal of exceeding the expectations of their millions of guests, of which I am one often. In 2022, he was named in National Restaurant News Power List among the most innovative and inspiring leaders in the restaurant industry. He feels fortunate to call many places home: Nigeria, Amsterdam, Zimbabwe, Illinois, Maryland, Providence, San Francisco, New York, and now Arizona. That is not a traditional list we get from a bio. He recently joined the YPO Scottsdale chapter as a board member and finance chair. Damola is a graduate of Harvard Business School and Brown University, where he played football. And I'm excited to dive into the lessons he learned on the gridiron. Remember to visit corporatecompetitorpodcast.com/147. Download the notes and reflection questions we put together for you.
Sports train you for life better than anything else in the world. There's a lot of things you don't want to do in sports. It's cold outside, it's 5 a.m., I'd rather just lay in bed, but I need to go do this workout. That becomes part of how you think. And that is helpful throughout life, no matter what you do. Because a lot of life is things you don't want to do that you need to get done. Listen, I run every morning and I do it because it's hard and I don't want to. I never want to, but I do it because that's how you start your day with conquest.
Damola, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Don.
You know, your life story is incredible. Born in Nigeria, raised in Zimbabwe, lived in Amsterdam, moving to America. You also are blessed with parents who are incredibly accomplished and successful in their own right. What did your father and mother teach you about achieving your dreams? Maybe things that you still lean on today.
Yeah, I'm remarkably privileged. You can be wealthy in a lot of ways growing up. We weren't financially wealthy, but I was wealthy in the terms of just having an incredible family and great parents who provided wonderful examples for me since I was very young. I grew up having a sense that it was expected that I was, work hard to be the best at everything I did. That was how they approached everything they did. My parents were both high achievers throughout their lives. They prioritized education. They came from families that were well educated. And that was really the standard throughout my entire life. If I came home with all A's and one B, my dad very gently would say, that's wonderful, but what's going on with this B? Oh, I got all these A's. Look at these A's. It's like, yeah, but this B. Is the work too hard? Is it the teach? Like, what's going on? And we'd always figure out the B and move it to an A. Like, that's just how I was raised. It set the tone for my life, which is everything I do, I try to excel and I try to achieve and I try to be the best that I could possibly be.
I like that.
People will step up if the bar is high by and large. If the person has very low expectations of them, they don't need to stretch and they'll sit at that low bar. If somebody has a high bar and they know what's expected of them and they feel supported, they'll achieve, they'll do more, they'll surprise themselves, and they'll build confidence and know that they can do more and better as they go forward. It'll compound. Buffett says compounding is one of the wonders of the world, and it's true in achievement. Once you do something once and you're successful and you start believing in yourself, then the next thing becomes easier and the next thing becomes easier, and it compounds throughout your life. That's true organizationally as well. You can set a high standard for the organization and say, we're going to transform the dining experience, which is something that we did here. Or we're going to build this off-premise dining business that doesn't exist today, but it will. And it's going to be wonderful, and it's going to do a lot of great things for our company. We did a lot of transformative things, and it's only been a few years, but the confidence that the organization gets from achieving these wins, laying out a very ambitious plan, but doing it in a way that builds confidence. It's not yelling and screaming at people. It's believing in them and showing a path and working together to get there. It transforms the morale and the confidence of the organization to where achievement becomes the norm.
That's what you want, the achievement to become the norm. And suddenly expected to be the best is not pressure. It's actually just the norm, as you said, and that becomes really a powerful experience internally.
Absolutely. People want to be great. They want to be winners. It's unlocking that drive, that ambition, and showing that we all win together. So they have people to lean on. They have a team. Work should be fun, but there should be a goal. There should be a purpose. Once everybody aligns on the purpose and it's an ambitious one, they start taking steps towards it. It doesn't happen overnight, but you start getting small wins and believing, and it's amazing how the morale in an organization can transform.
I love it. You end up in Maryland for high school and your first job in a restaurant, ironically enough. Even today, you still like to be the boots on the ground person who's actually in the restaurant so you can know what's going on. Give me the value of that perspective of that ground floor experience from way back when you were there and how it inspires you to be in touch with the day-to-day needs of the people in your restaurants.
The skill set you develop working with people, managing your time, dealing with guests, people having good days, bad days, the adaptability and the mental flexibility and the EQ you develop is quite remarkable. I think it's a wonderful first job for people. People on the front lines can see things that you can't if you're not there. I remember being in these restaurants and thinking, oh, if we only did this, it would be so much better. Or what if we did this? And I find it super valuable to tap into that now. Folks in the restaurant, the servers, the waiters, the chefs, the hosts, talk to the guest every day. It's helpful for me to speak with them and to be there and to hear what they're thinking and what's working and what's not. You can collect a lot of information and it can help refine your strategy and maybe find things that aren't working or find opportunities to do things a little better. So I think it's very important to be connected. And I've been there and I know what it's like to serve a guest and wish you could do things a little different or could be better if this was different or this system doesn't work really well. And I love hearing that information. So I spend a lot of time in the restaurants trying to talk to the team.
One of the key elements of what I'm listening to you say right here, though, is the challenge of getting those tidbits of information from the ground floor.
Yeah.
You have to be open and they have to trust that it's not career limiting for them to offer a suggestion.
They've got to trust you. Trust is key. Trust is built through vulnerability. People trust you once they feel like they know you. If you show up with a very hard edge, I'm Mr. CEO, they don't know who you are, you're a face and a title, nobody's going to tell you anything. When people start to trust you is when they feel like they know you. So I'll just talk to them as people and as colleagues, and I get to know them, especially the restaurants that I visit frequently, like, for example, the Arizona restaurants. I know the people there now quite well. Or our market partners, the people who oversee a group of restaurants. I know them all very well. With that, there's an openness that comes. It's a job and you're the boss and everybody understands that, but they'll feel better if they know you. One of my nerdy favorite novels, Song of Ice and Fire, there's a line where Ned Stark says, know your men and let them know you. Don't ask your men to die for a stranger. And that's before he's going to war. There's no war here, but people who work for you need to know who they're working for and who they're taking a help for and what you want and what they can do better. That dialogue is important. Opening up is huge, and speaking and talking and engaging and asking questions and getting to know people. Then you can find information organically and you can share information organically because they trust you.
Yeah.
One question I'll always ask is how they're spending their time. I like to drill down on what they're doing. And depending on the position, you might be surprised that they're spending a lot of time on things that aren't important, or they're not spending enough time on the things that are important. What that question will allow you to do is to remove distractions and obstacles. Can you just get rid of it altogether?
Yeah.
You discover what these things are, and you'll have no idea. You'll just see all of a sudden they're spending hours on this initiative that's like at the bottom of the list and isn't going to make a major difference. Then, okay, get rid of it. The more you can find out what they're actually doing day to day and how they're spending time, the better you can make organizational decisions that frees up their time and lets them focus on the things that are really going to drive a result.
Perfect. Great leaders are constantly looking to remove those barriers.
Absolutely.
That's powerful. So high school, you were known for football.
Yes.
You wore the green and gold defensive back for the Wild Lake Wildcats in Maryland, and you played for a legendary coach, Doug Duvall. 5 state championships, 308 wins in 36 seasons. Tell me a story from those years where Coach Duvall kind of opened your eyes to maybe what leadership might look like.
I love Coach Duvall. He built that program from nothing. There's no reason Wild Lake should be as successful as it is. It's not a private school. It's not a charter school. They don't recruit. It's a public school outside of Baltimore. They just had this incredible coach for 30 years. And he turned kids coming in into winners, just neighborhood kids in the area every year, built a winning team and built a bunch of leaders and winners. Remarkable man. I grew up in Africa and I grew up in the Netherlands. And when I moved to Maryland, I never played football before. Even when I lived in Illinois, it's basketball country. So I started playing basketball when I moved to the States. But Maryland's football crazy, like it's obsessed. I just remember in 8th grade, before I got to high school, just going to the Wild Lake games every Friday night lights and how incredible they were. You know, they were huge, they were athletic, they were dominant, they won. They were undefeated when I was in 8th grade, just never lost. They won the state championship. I really wanted to be a part of that. All the kids play football, so let me figure this thing out, right? Sports is how I really made friends when I moved into all these different places. I was a good athlete, so I'd play the sport and you'd make friends, and it's a very easy way to integrate into a new community. So when I got to high school and I joined the football team, I remember Coach Duvall was like the skinny African kid who'd never played football before, but he saw potential. And so he led me on the team and I joined varsity eventually. But I remember even as a freshman, when I was still kind of figuring things out, we'd go to Maryland camp and there'd be a senior that's getting ready to go to college and is really good. And I'd be with them. The senior was getting all the attention. I remember a guy named Eddie who was a receiver for us and say, hey, this is Eddie and he's great, blah, blah, blah. And this is Damola and he's the next Eddie. And he's going to be great. Like he would always do that. Always. And I'd feel it. Yeah, okay, I'm going to be good. Like, there is potential. Coach Duvall believes in me. No matter who he was talking to, he'd always instill confidence in that next generation. And when I was a senior, he'd do the same thing for the freshmen. So he instilled confidence like nobody I've ever met. And you wanted to prove him right. Coach Duvall thinks I'm going to be the next great player here. I want to become that. I want to prove him right. It's remarkably powerful.
A lot of leaders can lead a really short window of excellence. To be long-term, to win that many state titles, to win that many games, it's about constantly preparing the next generation.
Absolutely.
Not just celebrating that senior, but starting to build the one behind them.
Absolutely. Coach Duvall is a master at that. And you have to do that in your companies too. As a CEO, you spend most of your time with your direct reports.
Correct.
But you need to skip levels sometimes and spend times with that layer just beneath them. Invest in them, spend time with them, meet with them, know who they are, let them know who you are. That'll pay dividends because then you have a bench.
Yeah.
You got to hire people early into the organization that are supremely talented. We do an internship program here, and I spend a lot of time on that program. All of our leaders do. Getting the pipeline is key. Young talent that's driven, that's capable, and they can grow within the organization. You want to create programs for people in the mid-level, the VPs and directors, future leaders. We make sure that we have their brain trust. They know what's going on strategically. They're involved in high-level meetings. They know what the overarching plan is. They know what their role in the bigger picture is. And you can be really thoughtful about that. Quarterly updates with all the VPs, for example, is something we do. Send some of them to leadership training, like different things you can do to develop them and include them and make sure that they know that they have a future.
Wow.
It's incredible because they get that same reaction. And it's not just me. My COO will spend time with them. My CMO will spend time with them. My CFO will spend time with them. That means a lot to them.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be that much time. It's like 30-minute meeting with all the interns. It means a lot. That's something anybody can do. I'm busy, but you're not so busy you can't spend 30 minutes with your interns. It's an important thing. If you prioritize it, you can make the time for sure.
Boy, that is a great takeaway. Thank you.
Yeah.
You set a goal for yourself to play in the Ivy League. No one in the history of your high school program had ever gone on to play for an Ivy League school. You were able to do it.
Yeah.
What did you learn at Brown that really contributed to this people first culture that you're working so hard to build?
I had a lot of gratitude just to be there. It wasn't easy to get to Brown. I actually didn't think football would be a part of it. I thought I would just need to apply and get into these schools. I took my SATs like my junior year and I got a really high score. Coach Duvall saw that and freaked out. He said it was the highest score that any of his players had got. He took that score all around town, met with all the coaches. He took it to the Maryland coaches. He took it to the Georgetown coach. He's good at football, but he's also really smart. That was his new pitch for me. The Georgetown coach came, watched some of our games and started recruiting me. And I had the thought, I was like, Georgetown's a really good school. And I looked at their schedule and they played Harvard, they played Dartmouth, they played all the Ivies. So it was like, if I can play at Georgetown, why can't I play at Harvard, or why can't I play at Brown? And I wanted to go to an Ivy League school. They just didn't know who I was. To me, that was the only problem, right? Like Georgetown knew who I was because they knew Coach Duvall. Harvard had no idea and Brown had no idea.
Right.
I sent my highlight tape and my resume and my scores to all 8 Ivy League schools, to the coaches. And a couple of them reached out, and Brown was one. Brown came to my school. I met the coaches. They watched a couple of games. They watched some tape. I visited the campus. They decided to recruit me. Now, I had applied to Brown, and I might have got in. Who knows? But it's hard, and it's competitive. And football skipped all that, right?
Right, yeah.
I was psyched. I really wanted to come. I had to really hustle to get there. I just approached it 100%. I was just happy to be there. Workouts were hard. Fine, I'm here. School's hard. Fine, I'm here.
Wow, I like that.
That, I think, set me on the right path.
Right.
The football piece ended up being more about overcoming adversity and persistence and working through athletically the most difficult period, because I never really had any major injuries before that. And when I got there, I got injured almost right away. I tore my meniscus, so I missed my whole first year. But overall, the experience was awesome. We won an Ivy League championship my sophomore year. Great people and some good friends to this day.
That's awesome.
Sports train you for life better than anything else in the world. It's not just football, but anything where you have a goal and you have to go get it. Sports is good because it's a physical challenge. You have to physically get better. You have to go hit somebody. You have to go score a touchdown, score a basket, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things you don't want to do in sports. There's a lot of early wake ups to go training. There's a lot of, it's cold outside, it's 5 a.m. I'd rather just lay in bed, but I need to go do this workout. Like football, you have to go hit people. That's not a natural thing. I played safety when I was in high school, and it's like, you got to go hit some big boys and throw your whole body 100 miles an hour into them. You have to overcome these things mentally.
You don't want that fullback running downhill.
You have to do it. And you don't want to. You're sitting there and like, man, I'd rather be anywhere else. But you know what? I got to take him down. It becomes routine to have a major challenge that you need to do that you may or may not want to. It becomes routine to just do it anyways. That's a lot of what sports is. It's doing stuff you don't want to do and just doing it. That becomes part of how you think. And that is helpful throughout life, no matter what you do. Because a lot of life is things you don't want to do that you need to get done. Your brain just works like that. Like, okay, what's the problem? What do I need to do? Yeah, I don't want to, but it's fine. We'll get it done. That discipline, that work ethic, that just becomes innate, I find. Then you get confidence too, because once you've done things that you didn't think you could do, but now you've looked back and you did it, next thing you're not sure you can do, you feel confident about it.
Right.
It feels hard, but I'm sure I can figure it out. Listen, I run every morning and I do it because it's hard and I don't want to. I never want to. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what am I doing? But I do it almost every morning unless I have like some injury. But I do it because that's how you start your day with conquest. Run the 5 miles, build that confidence. Of course, physically, there's a lot of benefits to exercise. So you'll feel better psychologically and physically. But then also you'll just have done something hard and the rest of the day it feels easy. And it doesn't have to be running. Figure out something.
Right.
Figure out something. Some people bike, some people hike, some people run, some people box, whatever the case may be. Do something that's hard and build that into your routine. You'll be better for it. That's my number one advice. If you're going to do one thing from a lifestyle perspective, work out every morning. Do something. Your brain will work better. You'll be in a better mood. Physically, you'll be in better shape. You'll be more confident, and you'll have conquered something every morning.
I know that one of the things that you have talked about in some of the other interviews that I've watched is how important team culture was there. And that has played a role in the way that you're working in your corporate life today. What can you tell me about the team culture of that program that you took away?
They did a great job of making everybody feel like their role was important. Not everybody's going to be a star. Not everybody's going to get all the carries or even be on the field. A lot of people's job is going to be to practice hard and to get the starters better. They valued all of that. They gave awards for practice players. Who practiced the hardest? Who drilled the hardest? Winter workouts? Who showed up on time and put in the most effort? Most teams don't do that. They made everybody feel like there was something they could do to help the team win, whether or not they were going to be, the leader or the captain or the star. Everybody was a star in high school. Everybody was great in high school. Everybody was a captain. Pull a bunch of people like that together, and you have to manage that so that everybody can play a role. When I was hurt and I couldn't play, I always felt there was something I could do. When I wasn't starting, I felt like I could help in practice. They did a good job of fostering that all for one sort of do what you can, even if a different role than you're used to, you can still help this team win.
I love it. One of the things, the truism for you is you began early in your life educating yourself about money and investments. at a time when many of your peers probably wouldn't understand a single thing you were talking about.
It helps to be a big nerd and be interested in things and read about them. Well, I thought I understood. I didn't understand anything. I won a big scholarship when I was a junior. It was a speech contest. I had a wonderful English teacher that got me into the speech and debate club. I gave a speech to the Rotary Club, and there was a $10,000 prize, and they wrote me a check, the most money I'd ever had, sitting in my account. I decided I was going to invest it, which means I had to learn how to invest. Initially, I was going to do real estate because that's what everybody was doing. This is like '06. Okay, this seems easy, but it's not enough money to buy anything. I learned quickly. I'm going to buy stocks. I just found a bunch of resources at the library, and there's a website, Motley Fool, that I used to read.
Yep.
I read this book about Buffett. So I just started learning everything I could and buying stocks and reading about the companies. And it was '06. All the stocks are going up and everybody's making money. So I started thinking that I was pretty good.
That is that false sense of confidence sometimes.
False sense of confidence, indeed.
And then '08, you started not thinking you were that good.
Exactly. But I was hooked already. So I was already in the game. When I got to Brown, I knew vaguely what I wanted to do. I didn't know the details. I didn't know really about investment banking and private equity, things that I did later, but I like that sector of the world. What that helped me do was learn more about the thing that I wanted to do, because I got in day one and I got involved in these things. I joined the Brown Investment Group. I became president of that as a senior, but as a freshman, I was just there learning. But I wouldn't have done that if I didn't know I had that interest. So it compounds.
Right.
When you know the thing you want to do, the universe can really conspire to deliver it to you. Because number one, you're going to be chasing it. And then number two, you're going to talk about it. Now I'm interested in investing. Now I'm talking about it on campus. Now I find other people that are interested in investing. Now I learn from them. They have things that they're telling me that I hadn't even thought about. It all kind of just builds once you're pointing a direction and you're active. Now, I'm not saying everybody should know what they want to do in high school. I think that's rare and I'm lucky. But I do think the earlier you have a direction, the better, because the world will just work in your favor. People will show up that have similar interests. You'll just find these people. You'll find these things. You'll join the right clubs. You'll help yourself and you'll move more quickly once you know where you want to go.
So you end up on Wall Street and then you end up making this transition into the role you're in today. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that transition from Wall Street to the world of restaurants. How did that happen?
I barely understood it either. It happened quickly. I was working at a hedge fund in New York, Paulson and Company. It's run by a guy named John Paulson, who's a very famous investor of our generation. So somebody I used to work with at Goldman was hired to sell P.F. Chang's effectively for the former owners, a private equity firm called Centerbridge. He brought it to me not because Paulson did a lot of private equity, but because he thought the company was really interesting and it could be a good deal. When he said P.F. Chang's, I knew what it was immediately. Of course, and I grew up next to one in Maryland. There's one at the Columbia Mall. I ate there for homecoming. I knew the brand as a consumer. And that's part of the power of the company. The brand is really strong.
No question.
Everybody knows it. There's a lot of affinity for it. And I thought the product was excellent. So like you, Don, I traveled all around the country and tried it, reacquainted myself with it when we were looking at it. It's a great brand. The food is good. There's things to fix, but they're all fixable. There's things to build, but they can all be built. I pitched it to John and I said, this could be a great investment. I just really liked it. I thought we should own it. So I led the deal from an investor standpoint to acquire it. It was my deal, so I was responsible for it. We had this big thesis. We're putting all the pieces in place in the first year. This is 2019. Remodeling all the restaurants, building out this technology platforms, building out the delivery operation, all these things we wanted to do. We brought in a CEO to run it, a guy named John Etiako, who I'm very close with. He's on the board now, but he's older. He was 73 when we brought him in. It was kind of a pinch hitter because we needed a CEO and we knew him and he agreed to help us. Etiako basically took the nuts and bolts operations and I took all these transformative initiatives that we wanted to do, mostly the technology investments, which Etiako wasn't that interested in managing, but we really thought was important. So I started coming out here every week from New York. I'd come out here on Monday, leave on Thursday, trying to help. I told John, I'm here to help you get things done, whatever you don't want to do, whatever I can help with. So I just ended up taking on a bunch of things. Etiako said, if you're going to be here every week, you need a title. So they named me Chief Strategy Officer for a year. Then COVID happened. Etiako, he's older. He was traveling every week too from Dallas. So he kind of stepped back and said, listen, I'm happy to help, but right now it's not good. So COVID hit, the restaurants are all closed, and we didn't have a CEO.
Yeah.
And I was responsible for the deal. I went to John Paulson and I kind of said, we need to do a CEO search. It's not an ideal time. This is like April 2020. It's like mass chaos, but we need to find a CEO. Paulson wasn't interested in that. His view was, you've been at the company for a year. You're the chief strategy officer. It's your deal. It's your strategy and it's your investment. Like, why don't you do it?
That's good.
Yeah, definitely. I never planned to be CEO. I thought it was a good deal. I wanted to be on the board and manage it from that level and bring in a CEO, which we did. Sometimes the moment calls. What am I going to do? You don't decide when you need to step up. Sometimes it gets decided for you. You need to do it.
Boy, that's big.
This is my deal. John put a lot of money on my recommendation. All the restaurants are closed. It's in danger of failing because every restaurant was during COVID. I'm asked to step in and lead. Like, it's my responsibility. I was always going to do it.
That's where you can lean back into sports,
Absolutely.
especially things that you don't want to do.
I owed it to the business to do everything I could to make sure that it was successful. I owed it to everybody who worked here. I owed it to John Paulson. That was what needed to happen. And I agreed, by the way, philosophically and intellectually. I knew the most about the company. I was already in a leadership position here. It would be a very easy transition. Me and Paulson did the deal together. So it'd be clear strategy, clear focus. It was the right solution. But of course, from a personal perspective, that means I need to move to Arizona and I need to change my career.
Right.
So I came in and it was chaos. It was wartime. And in a way that helps to galvanize the company. When the enemy's at the gates, it's easier to rally everybody and say, we need to survive. You have to be transparent. Let them know, like, the company's in a lot of danger and here's why. I mean, it's obvious, but the restaurants are all closed and this is what it does to us financially. And I had a town hall with all the employees within like the first week I joined and kind of laid all that out.
Wow. That's one of the great lessons I think many of us learned during COVID was the power of communication.
Yeah.
Even if you don't really know anything, the opportunity to, as a CEO, admit that you're in the same place they are.
Absolutely.
Very revelatory.
And they appreciate that. You know, nobody likes being kept in the dark. They know the world's crazy. Like, everybody's watching the news. So they know things are happening. They know restaurants are closed. They know it can't be good. They know there's issues. So they just want to understand, like, exactly what's going on.
Right.
There's no harm in telling them. They appreciate that. They're like, okay, so this is where we are. This is where sales are. This is what we need to do to get through. This is what kind of levels we need to hit on off-premise. This is what we need to do on delivery. This is like how we contribute. This is what my role in it. It goes back to the team thing.
Right.
This is the goal. This is, you have an important role to play. This is what we need to do as an organization. When we get through this, we'll be stronger and better. So we kept investing in the restaurants. We kept investing in technology. We built out the off-premise even faster than we would have before because we needed to. So when we came out, all the things we wanted to do were further ahead. We got through it and we were stronger and better. Now they believe. There's trust.
And then that allows you to do bigger and better things.
Do the next thing, and they believe.
There's a rhythm to all this.
100%. And you need wins. People want to play up for a winning team. When you start winning, then the trust builds. It's really a powerful thing.
Wow, I love it. There were a lot of people who built strategy around the crisis, but that off-premise sales concept was already one of your major priorities.
Yeah.
Takeout, delivery. You put systems in place. You couldn't have imagined that they would be as important as they ultimately turned out to be. But those systems actually helped carry the business through that window of time. Why was it part of your strategy even before all of this started to unravel? What was it that made that so apparent to you?
It was a key part of our thesis when we bought the company. We came in believing off-premise was the future, just by looking around. In New York, delivery was such a big part of my life, and everybody I knew was ordering delivery. And you looked at the numbers, it was the fastest growing part of the restaurant industry by far. Companies that were really successful, like Domino's, built this massive delivery business that helped them become the company they are.
Right.
You looked at Chipotle, you looked at Cava, you looked at all these great companies that were doing interesting things. They'd all figured out the off-premise business. They build apps, they build websites, they build delivery infrastructure. Some of them do their own delivery. We got on a call with Patrick Doyle, who's the chairman of Domino's, for like an hour and talked through how we built the delivery business and what it did for the company. And to us, it was obvious. It's Chinese food.
Right.
It's Asian cuisine. If there's going to be a cuisine that should do well in delivery, it's this one.
Right.
And there was nobody doing it well at all. We didn't have an app. We didn't have a website to order delivery from. We hadn't built anything. So we thought it was an easy win, and it didn't have to conflict with the dine-in business. That's key, because you don't want off-premise to interrupt dine-in. But you can run them concurrently and have them both be great. Have a great experience when you come into the restaurant. If you order delivery, have a great experience there.
It's fascinating when I listen to executives like you talk about, well, that seemed like an easy win. If it was an easy win, isn't it crazy that it wasn't already being done?
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's easy conceptually, but there's a lot that needs to be done executionally.
Right.
And culturally speaking, restaurant people don't like delivery. I mean, they do now because everybody had to during COVID. But when we bought the company, it was like culturally taboo almost, because it interrupts the dine-in business if not managed well. Like, you have delivery people kind of coming in the host stand and interrupts the flow. It backs up the kitchen. So they view it as something to deal with rather than an opportunity.
You were coming at it as a customer.
Exactly. I wasn't an industry person. I came in totally from the outside. I looked at it objectively. There wasn't a lot of excitement to do it. And then we came in and said, okay, let's fix these conflicts. The host stand, you don't want delivery people there. I understand that. What if you build a separate entrance and have that be where the delivery people come in?
I love that.
And then you're no longer interrupting the host. Kitchen gets backed up. What if you limit the delivery times or limit how many orders can come through at peak times? Do most of your delivery kind of on the shoulders. Okay, that works. There's solutions to all this if you work with the teams and you're thoughtful about it. And the technology, use the technology, it's your friend.
Yeah.
So we got people on board, and then once they saw what it could do for their business, again, going back to winning, people embraced it. And okay, you're doing X million in dine-in sales. Now you add Y million in off-premise, and now your whole business is twice as profitable as it used to be. That's great for everybody. By the way, people get paid here based on their restaurant profitability. Company does well, you do well, it's good for you. The guest likes it. It's a win-win.
Totally.
Now we did that in 2019, fortunately, because when COVID hit, we had all the infrastructure built. We had the tech built, we had the delivery system so we could transition people pretty seamlessly. And then it really exploded for us and for everybody else. But we had already started down that path.
Boy, I tell you, sometimes that outside perspective allowed you to take a step that maybe internally they wouldn't have. And that step ultimately turned to be quite beneficial. One of the questions we ask every guest that we've had is based on years of work as a writer. I've always been fascinated that so many organizational, especially corporate leaders, refer to their groups as teams. And the truth is that most often they're just a group of individual contributors carrying the same business card. They don't really conduct themselves as a team. You've been on teams. You've been on good teams, great teams. You're now working to build one. For those of us trying to build a team, give me a couple of early wins you have to create to take a group of individual contributors over that bridge and put them together.
Great question. And you're right about that. A lot of teams are not truly teams.
It's the phrase though. Oh, it's my team.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of times that's not truly the case. The first thing you need to do is align people on strategy and objectives, a shared goal. A lot of times that's not the case. Every department kind of has a different goal, or every group kind of is trying to do something different. There needs to be an overarching strategy for the organization that everybody adopts. I believe in compensation, like bonuses being tied to one thing that everybody is driving towards, personally. And a lot of companies like to do it by department, et cetera. But I think you can build a team easier if everybody has the same goals, everybody wins on the same metrics, and everybody's trying to achieve the same things.
Bonus is built on one thing that everyone can have a part in achieving.
Exactly.
Wow.
All you do something like EBITDA for the company, which incorporates everything.
Right.
It incorporates sales, it incorporates expense management, it incorporates most of our strategic initiatives, our people initiatives, which end up helping do things like reduce turnover, which end up reducing expenses, so on and so forth. And it could be something different, but I think it's helpful to have everybody shooting towards the same goal. Once you have that, then you need to foster communication and trust. Okay, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We all get rewarded on the same metrics. We're all in this together. The business does well, we all do well. And we have a shared strategy to achieve it. Now we need to communicate in order to deliver this result. We need to share information. We need to trust each other. That's team building. It starts by example, truly. If I operate that way and I deal with all of my direct reports that way and I deal with everybody I speak with that way, then they're going to start behaving that way. Your example means more than you know because people are always watching you.
Amen.
So your own behavior needs to reflect what you want your team to be. And then you need to be transparent and open and communicative. And you need to encourage that from your other departments. If people aren't talking, why? Sit them in a room like, oh, we're going to figure this out together. So start getting wins, celebrating it as a team. Look what we achieved. You know, everybody contributed. I like to call people out that help from different departments so people feel like they've contributed to the result, which helps them want to do it again and do it again and do it again.
Winning helps. I know you're a super fan of the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
They added a massive piece in Kevin Durant. What do you see in the chemistry of that team that you find attractive and instructive?
A couple of things in the team dynamic. So they're a top-heavy team. They basically got two superstars. They're pretty thin below that in terms of talent.
Because they gave it all away to get Durant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The first thing I like is Booker and Durant realize that they need to be great individually and they need the other person to be great too. They really big each other up. Durant, when he gets interviewed, is always talking about how great Booker is. Like, he's a natural. Somebody asked him the other day, like, did it surprise you how many? No, it didn't surprise me. That's who he is. That's what he does. And he's always talking him up, instilling confidence because Booker's younger and coming up.
He's the next Eddie.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And Booker shows a lot of respect to Durant, like it's mutual.
Yeah.
So I like their dynamic. They know they need each other. So they're working together, supporting each other. And then finally, some people are stepping up. You can't win with just 2 players. So you need everybody else to feel engaged. And you're getting that now. You're seeing more engagement from the rest of the team, realizing that they don't win without Landry Shamet or Josh Lansdale, the backup center who played really well last game. You need these people too, and they need to be engaged. You don't win without them.
And you don't win without a great dishwasher and a busboy.
Exactly. Everybody has a role to play, and they're important. Make sure they feel that.
That's awesome. I'm so grateful. The other day, I actually was in Reagan Airport and stopped at your place there. And
oh, good. That's new.
Actually took a picture of the bag and sent it to my team and said, look, I'm doing research.
I love that.
So how can our guests find a PF Chang's location near them? And is there a way that, are you in social or LinkedIn?
Yeah. We'll start with the most important, which is the restaurants.
Yes.
You go to pfchangs.com. We have all our locations listed. We probably have one near you, or just go on Google Maps and search for PF Chang's. We'll have one most likely close to you, except for Tallahassee, which I've noted down.
We're going to work on that.
We're on it. And then for me personally, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on there.
Thank you today. As I shared with you, this meant enough for me that I didn't want to take this off the calendar, even though I'm recording this while I'm in Hawaii.
I appreciate you doing that. It's been wonderful talking to you, Don. Great conversation. So I appreciate that.
I'm grateful. And today, thank you for being a corporate competitor with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Don. You take care.
Before I jump into my top 3 lessons from Damola's interview, I wanted to thank Steve Alberts, a professor at High Point University, for his kind note. He said, "Thanks for creating awesome content and delivering messages that motivate and empower listeners." Thank you for listening, Steve. And listeners, I'd love to hear from you too. Connect with me at maxwellleadership.com/Don. Now, I'm going to tell you, that was as great an interview as an order of Mugu Gai Pan. That was awesome. So let's make sure we take 3 good things out of it. The first for me was that idea of the power of high expectation. He shared his parents' push for his excellence, and then how he continues to do the same with everyone that works within his team. He talks about people will step up if the bar is high. Too often, it seems people are busy trying to lower the bar so that others can achieve something. The truth is, high bars are good things. And as he is proving at his age, my gosh, 34 years old, crazy that he is achieving so much, it is because he set a high bar for himself. The second was he talked about his time at Brown when he got injured right away, something he hadn't experienced before. But he talked about what he learned about the culture of a great organization by watching the team building at Brown. They gave awards for practice players. They wanted everyone to believe they could contribute something to help the team win. And so it did not matter what your position was within the organization. It didn't matter if you were on the injured list or not. There was some way you could contribute, and everybody needed to be additive. And then finally, I loved the entire idea about what sports did for him. One of the most important things for him is to get a win early every day. I even like his early morning running discussions. It's stuff I don't want to do. I don't want to get up and go running, but you need to start your day with a conquest. Wow, there's advice all of us can take. Start our day with a conquest. Go out and be the greatest corporate competitor you have within you. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir. How
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. Thanks for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you left us a rating and a review. We will be rolling out a new episode every Wednesday. To be the first to listen, subscribe to the podcast on our website, corporatecompetitorpodcast.com. Plus, as a thank you gift, you will receive a free chapter from one of my best-selling books on the habits of high-performing teams. Stay in touch by connecting with me on social media at Don Yeager, Yaeger, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I appreciate you.